Hey, what's up, everybody? Today is another hot one. We're going to talk about life is not fair. This is a warning before we start. SJ Warriors, Snowflakes, Dusty Jeromes, and Penniless Pams. This one might hurt today. It might hurt, and I apologize in advance. So, again, who am I? I'm Erica Shantae Williams. I wrote books. I actually have two companies, a painting company and light construction company here in Austin, Texas. I also have an online blog talking about, and it's literally called The Classy Climb. Why? Because I climbed my way to a better position, like many others in America do as well. So today's show, of course, is talking about life is not fair. Many people are surprised for some reason when they get the pushback. And so I just saw these articles about millennials not liking capitalism. And I thought that was the craziest thing I've ever heard of, because this shows me these young people haven't traveled and they really haven't lived life, because our family has been traveling for over almost 16 years at this point, every year annually on a family corporate vacation. And we go to the islands, we go to Mexico, we go to, you name it. This year we'll be going to Hawaii. The key here is every time I go in those countries, I see people that look like me and they're doing jobs I would probably never do here in America. They're working as ladies of the night. They are working as janitors and cleanup people. And many other Americans, if you talk to African Americans or Black African Americans, when they go travel to other places, they see people that look like them that don't have the opportunities they have here in America. So let's start it out there, okay? There's a study, and I'm going to do some screenshots today, but there's a study showing that when we teach poor kids, life is fair, everything's fair. You just put in that hard work and pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and it's fair. And that's dangerous, because what we should be teaching them, and the reason it's dangerous is because a lot of these kids are in deep depressions. They're suicidal. They're trying to figure out what's happening to these kids. Why are they killing themselves? It's a great time to be in America. Well, they've already realized life is not fair. They're at a poor school. Even in Chicago, they were sending kids across town to the suburb school where they kind of do a swap for a semester. And a lot of the kids were like, yeah, their school has computers and Wi-Fi and all this other stuff. The cafeteria is great. And then you send that kid back to that other school in Chicago. Why does that make any sense? Because now that kid has now experienced how school should be. Another example of this, I told you guys, a lot of the New Orleans Katrina victims, when they left, they were like, the schools here are so clean and nice and the bathrooms work, that they didn't want to return. A lot of people were saying, oh, they didn't have the money. I'm sorry. The legislation put in place after Hurricane Katrina almost guaranteed everybody $250,000. Man, woman, and child. But you just had to prove your identification. What happened? A lot of people didn't have their IDs. A lot of people were running in the middle of the storm. It's water everywhere. They didn't have their identification, and the house they used to live in isn't even there anymore. The mailbox isn't even there anymore. So a lot of those people that suffered through Hurricane Katrina realized, you know what? I can make a new start somewhere else. And that's when they realized it wasn't fair. So the whole premise of this show is solution-based. We want to have solutions. So many times people are like, yeah, the problems, but I want to give solutions. And I want you guys to contribute and give me some solutions in the comments today. And as I see, we got General Knowledge. Hey, how you doing? We got Andre Hatchett. Hello. Shireen Douglas. Hey. So again, I'm going to start sharing the screen here. We're going to get you on this first one. And this one is, like, to me, inspiring, right? Because I shared this on Facebook and people are like, that's crazy. But that's not crazy if your parents don't have this great life, or your parents don't have credit cards, or your parents don't put you in a position where you can just kind of skip over some of this. Some people literally have to work their way up for years. Now, is it a good thing? Yes. But on the bad side, sometimes that means you start off adulthood later. 30. I know a lot of people who at 30 years old finally moved out of their parents' house, finally got their own apartment, and people are like, oh, when are you going to get married? And that poor guy's like, I finally am free from my parents. So it's creating this really delayed adulthood. So example here is Faye. I think this is awesome. So Faye started out working at KFC. Then Faye became a manager at KFC. Then Faye went to housekeeping. Then Faye became a nursing assistant. Then Faye became a LPN. Now Faye is a RN. Now, every one of these steps, Faye may have been going to get paid $13 an hour as a manager in the food place, who knows how much in the housekeeping, who knows around 12, 13 as a nursing assistant, maybe a little. And now, you're going to make 60 to 80,000, depending on her location and request of job raises, because they're short on nurses, about 300,000 nurses all over the United States. They have systems for traveling nurses because of the shortages. Now, why am I showing you this picture? Because it's the possibility. It is truer than true that this young lady knew my end goal is to be an RN. Now, did Faye have any children? I don't know. Did Faye have any other issues? This article basically talks about her life. I think someone was killed, one of her parents or something like that. But at the end of the day, look at that. She saw these signs for being a nurse. She knew. She knew. And she's only 27 years old, so that's why I like this article. But she's only 27 years old, but that's the thing. She was a waitress, home healthcare worker. I mean, she literally went through grocery, secretary. She took the long way around, but she finally made it. And so there's some people who were sharing their story and saying they were 40 and they made it. They were 43 and made it. I don't care if you're 40 years old and a nurse. You know why? Because you can work as a nurse like forever. You can work as a nurse till you're like 80 years old and they have to drag you out of there. That's why I love this story, because a lot of African-American women are going to try to go to colleges and be nurses, and they have a backlog. And you guys know how angry I was about East Carolina. They were saying they were doing it according to quota. So they had 122 slots every year, and 22 were reserved for minorities. Now, when you say minorities, that meant Asians, Indians, and Black people. So you kept having to reserve 100 spots. And so finally, after a few lawsuits, ECU cleaned that up and have changed that. But they had at least 100 or 200 Black women just waiting to be processed through this nursing program, when instead they could have just, you know what, this year we're going to have 75% Black nurses and 25 White girls, and knock out some of that backlog. So I'm big on nursing. I'm big on, if anybody wants to go be a nurse or in the medical industry, I mean, those things touch me, because look at this. That's a progression, dude. That's a mindset change, and that's dedication. So, all right, switching over to the next site, because that's the key. You got to keep moving up. Like, is anybody in the comments switched jobs or moved up in different careers? I know Andre up there. He's on there. I know Andre started as a teacher or teacher's assistant, and bought a home and moved up, got a notary business, and now he is making mega bucks. But it all takes being focused and being that way. So in the comments, if anybody started out with one job and now they're ended up at another, please comment. I love when people share those stories, because a lot of you know on this channel that I, when I lost my coffee shop, my brick and mortar business, I mean, it wiped me out. It wiped out my cash reserves, and I ended up coming to Austin, Texas, and I worked as a property manager, and I drove for pizzas at night and on the weekends, and I was working to get my real estate license, and it was all towards the good, right? It was all towards building on this future of eventually owning my own business and owning more rental properties. So we're switching over to blue collar millionaires. The reason I love this show is a lot of the people have very, very basic companies. I mean, I'm talking about AC companies. I'm talking about construction. I'm talking about cleanup. You know, this one lady had porta potties on here. You know, it's a female CEO. You know, it's just different, right? Each one does very simple stuff. Digging, you know, warehouses, a lot of so the book I was showing you guys about, The Illusions of Entrepreneurship, that whole book basically said, if you look at the average person who starts a business, they're in their 40s because they've got experience and they got some money in their pocket. They're married, their wife works, and they start something low tech. They don't start these startups you see on TV. They're starting these companies. Asphalt, they're cleaning up, you know, they're moving, they're digging in the dirt. It's not these over the top business ideals that people think. Now, there's one show on here that cracks me up. It's actually worms. They have worms. Like, they literally, they have worms. Like, they have a big giant mud thing in their backyard of this 1 acre of just dirt and mud, and they sell the worms to fishing companies and companies that do like fishing expeditions on the coast. And so they just have this giant yard of worms. And I thought it was the craziest thing I've ever heard of. But I really want you guys to go check out CNBC Blue Collar Millionaires. You know, they just talk about all these unique ways. And it just is so enjoyable. It's so enjoyable because it makes sense. Like, they had this the black guy at the end, the Ohio junior, he was a janitor. And then he built $1 million business in the oil. So, I mean, sometimes it's things you know and sometimes it's not, right? So again, these are all great example of guys and girls working and making money, and it just makes my heart happy, because I think there's, as much as I'm saying life is not fair, you also can create your life. Very, very, very much of it is in your hands at some point. Now, here's the thing about Ben Shapiro. I said I was going to talk about it in my post. Ben Shapiro, these are true stats. If you do not have kids out of wedlock and you work a job for a year and you're not physically handicapped, like I'm talking about in a wheelchair, something extreme, the chances of you being in poverty are like 4%. Now, why is that important? Because around the year mark, when you meet a lot of people, they fix their hole, right? Like they are either in the hole in credit cards or student loan debts or their rent. And after working for a year, they should mostly be caught up. Keyword mostly. But that's if you're putting your money in the right places. And so the statistics for poverty, as long as you have a kid out of wedlock and you're working, are pretty strong. Now, here's my problem with that statistic, because a lot of times what people don't realize is they don't have any money put aside. They're like working on the edge of life. And like if they break a leg, like I went down after my appendix went down a couple years ago, and the money I had put away for bank certificates and lending club and all that stuff, when I came home, I was like, holy crap, I have money still coming in. That was the power change. That was the key, because I was putting all this money when people thought I was crazy, you know, putting hundreds of dollars every week, you know, pretty much all my pizza delivery money away. And people were like, well, you need to do this with your money. I knew that would come to help me in the end. So again, so I'm going to read over some of your comments, but I just want you guys to check out, this thing is good. I mean, it talks about truck drivers. It talks about, you know, you name it. You name it. This dude does auto parts delivery. Jeb Lopez started with $7,000. So to be on this show, you have to be doing, like, your business has to be kicking ass. A lot of these people don't even want to be on the show, but they be on the show because it's like marketing. It's like free marketing, you know, like people in their hometown love the stories, and like they, you know, bit more sales. So hello, Michelle. Jermaine Coleman, sorry. I worked at a chemical company for 10 years now, drive tractor trailers. There you go, man. Man, if you own one or two, then you can lease those bad boys out. Malik, Erica, you're going hard. You're motivating the heck out of me. Look, Malik, you can do it. Like, you just got to have your focus. Well, as I joke all the time, keep your eyes on the paper, on your own paper, because I could go right now every day of the week and go, how come that YouTube channel is bigger? Or how come that painting company in Austin's bigger? That's a dumb way to live. Focus on your own crap. And the key where that comes from is people not focusing on their own stuff. They did these surveys showing where these couples were so upset about, you know, like they weren't satisfied. Like they felt like they were in a mild depression because they felt like they could get a hotter spouse and a bigger house. I mean, it was crazy. And I'm like, that just shows you the lack of gratitude in people, where they're sitting there depressed because their spouse is not as hot as somebody else's spouse. Dude, keep your eyes on your own freaking paper, dude. You and her go to the gym together, work out, and keep your eyes on your own paper. Because most of the time it's like, the stories just blow my mind. So another one here. General knowledge from corrections to law enforcement to driving school bus and now tractor trailer. See, that's what I'm talking about. The choices are there. There's a lot of people who I see who are, there's a stat that might scare you guys, but the average fast food worker is 36 years old. Now, what does that mean? That means that person is not a manager. They're just in fast food. Now, I've been in some small towns where I drove through a small nowhere town and there weren't many jobs. So I saw older people working at a fast food place, and that's fine. Do what you got to do, pay your bills. But there's some major cities where people could be hopping, could be taking community college classes, could be doing anything. Now, there was a couple videos back when Hurricane Harvey came through, and I was telling you guys about becoming an insurance adjuster for $200, taking the test, or paying, you know, $300 to become a mortgage lender, right? Because in other places, people are buying houses. And people were like, $200, Erica? $300? I can't believe you want me to pay that much. I was absolutely blown away at the thought that people did not want to spend $200 to have a different life and make $50,000 to $100,000 a year. Just blew my mind. So, but the key here is that's a part of growing. Like a lot of times when I worked at Lowe's, there were people who worked there for 10, 12 years, never pursued management, just want to come to work, get a check and go home. and then had the nerve to complain about their life. Like, you can't complain about your life when you actually make the decision that you aren't going to pursue more. You can't. Like, and so many people are angry with business owners and inflation, but they haven't been putting money away. They haven't been focused. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Michelle put Navy to singer. Navy. We only have one Navy member. Everybody's Army. We have one Air Force, one Navy, and one Marine. So Michelle says she went from Navy to singer to hairstylist to phone sales, now personal trainer. Next step, using technology to write my own music. Man, Michelle, never before. Dude, definitely check out Ryan Leslie. His whole thing revolutionized a lot of the older rappers you see, where they, you know, they had membership sites and selling their own CDs and making a lot of those guys millionaires because they had the name. And when the record label was pretty much like, oh, I'm tired of you now, they can still go make a ton of money. Ryan Leslie's been a millionaire consistently for years, writing his own music, you know, doing his own thing. So it's crazy, but that's good. Let's see. I don't know how your name is. Dahlia says, what turnkey company have you used personally? I live in NY and trying to find a reputable company. I don't want to be broke to Rome or Pan. So turnkey company, do you mean for property management? Like a turnkey real estate company? Definitely send me a consultation, because like I have a list of different ones that I use, but that's a whole nother topic. We're talking about poverty today and to come up. Talking about life ain't fair. So, all right. Jackie, hello. Okay. All right. So another one, let's see if I can get back over to it. Here we go. The study that originally kicked me off and talking about this, if it'll pop up. Looks like the screen doesn't want to act right. But essentially, this study showed that kids were, you know, it's like this myth of meritocracy. Because what has been happening is a lot of people were telling kids, you know, it's all fair and you get scholarships. And a lot of studies show that you can kind of be a dumb kid. And if your parents are middle class and they have some money, you'll be just fine. And everybody knows this. This is a known thing. Okay, well, it's tripping, so we're going to wait for it to come up. This has been a known thing for years. People have known this for years, that you know, that this problem exists, right? That you know, if you've got a yeah, we're not talking about that today on the video, so go ahead and hit me up for a consult, or just check out next video. Some past videos I did on turnkeys. It's not what we're talking about today. But so like, people have known that for years about families. They've seen kids who, you know, they've owned a business in town and they got one son or daughter that's not the brightest, but yet they're doing well because of what? Because of the family, because of credit cards, because of business ownership. I can tell you right now, I know one or two people who the husband makes $20,000 a year, the wife makes $20,000 a year, because they mostly work part-time all the time, but yet they have a brand new house. Why? Because their parents helped throw it on. You know, their parents help put the down payment down, you know. And so when people say, oh, everything's fair, life is fair, that's really lying to kids, and that's really putting them in a handicapped situation. It's not good. It's not a good situation. Now, something we've been talking about often on this channel is credit helping and credit hurting some people. Now, why is that true? Because what happens is, I tell people, I could probably give them a $20,000 credit card. Some would just go on vacations, and the other would go start a business doing something. Because a lot of these aren't super expensive companies. A lot of times people start low product companies, low tech. Now, I don't want to say low end, I want to say low tech, right? Or resale companies. And credit can help people and credit can hurt people. And so I'm tying this into the fact that people were asking, well, shouldn't teachers teach how to file taxes, how to register to vote, how to balance your checkbook, how to do all this at school? Here's my issue with it. It used to be in school, and accounting used to be in school, so the Rockefellers took it out of school, right? 1906 or 1907. Why did they do that? Because it helped society have a certain segment of people who were just silly with credit, not knowledgeable, didn't know how to balance their checkbooks, were going to spend money. Now we're in a point in society that is not helpful. We need everybody knowing how to count their pennies, how to invest their money, because Social Security is not going to be here, taking care of their own family and taking care of themselves. We're going to have a point where it's going to be a lot of really poor people that just never do well. Not that they don't make money, because right now in America, Hispanics and African Americans are making crazy buku money, but as far as investments and savings, same levels, same levels. So what does that mean? That means a lot of people are getting a lot more money in their pocket, but they don't know what to do with it. No one's told them what to do with it. No one's told them how to invest. And studies show, just like with your health, people don't make drastic 180 turns like in their health. So they get their first mini stroke, first heart attack, first pre-diabetes kind of conversation with the doctor, and then they make like 183 turn in their life. Now, you knew you need to be walking, you know you need to eat better. Like I did an Instagram video earlier about getting juices from Whole Foods, and the lady going, "You're always coming here for you." I was like, yeah, you never get enough fruits and vegetables in your day. What is this going to hurt? You need to help yourself as much as possible. And I always get the Red Dawn if you go to Whole Foods. It's like beets, spinach, ginger, and I always throw apple in there. So that's just the thing, right? That's how you get those turnarounds in life. Same thing happens with financials. Why do people call Dave Ramsey show? Because they can't think of a better way to get out of their situation, right? They're stuck financially. They're making money. I just did a video yesterday, how to make $150,000 and be absolutely broke. The lady wants to buy a house, but she's $20,000 in IRS back taxes. She just bought a brand new SUV. She's doing it all backwards. She's doing it backwards, and she doesn't realize she's doing it backwards. So she hits the wall and realizes, oh, I can't go buy a house now because I have this back taxes and I have this other stuff going on. So we talked about lifestyle creep the other day. So Jackie said, I just tuned in. What are the questions? Basically, today we're talking about life is not fair and how studies show teaching kids that life is fair sets a lot of people up for depressions. On the show, we talked about 2 things that keep you out of poverty, and that's keeping a job for a year and not having kids out of wedlock. Basically, I was asking the question of anybody who's moved up in different jobs, please share where'd you start it and where you are now. Because we talked about Faye, the lady who started as a KFC worker, then a KFC manager, then she became a housekeeping, and then she became, all the steps of nursing. But that's the dedication. She was only 27 when she was done. But imagine telling an 18-year-old, you got to do all this, and then you get your prize. They might not want to do that. They'd be like, oh, 27, that's so far away. But that's the key. You got to keep moving up, because sometimes people do start at different places in life, and we know it's not fair, but you also have to take personal responsibility. And that's kind of what the conversation's been about. V Cruz, just checking in, enjoying the stream. Jeffers, okay. But yeah, so essentially we talked about blue collar millionaires. And the fact is, if you guys noticed the show, Mike Rowe's Dirty Job Show, why is that show so popular? That show's popular because so many people know that everybody can't work in an office. That's just not realistic. Everybody's not going to be in a button-up shirt and slacks and in an office. So they call the show Dirty Jobs, but a lot of those guys enjoy working with their hands and enjoy having work. And that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a return to trades. You're going to see a lot more manufacturing. If anybody's here in Texas or been to Dallas, Texas, that's a manufacturing hub. Now, everybody thinks Dallas is this big banking and business and oil. No, oil's in Houston. Dallas has a lot of factories. You'll meet a lot of guys who work in a factory, drive a nice car, and you're like, oh, what do you do? I work in this factory. You're like, you work in a factory? Where? And Dallas is full of factories, full of forklift guys, full of guys working in factories. So just heads up on that. But again, we can't expect the school system to teach us, and the school system barely teaches people now. So if the school system for 10 years start teaching people about finances, unless they pull in a specialist to do so, we'd have a lot of kids with some bad information, because we have a lot of teachers in debt, a lot of teachers who have to work second part-time jobs because they're complaining teaching doesn't pay enough. And here's my counter argument. We set up laws and tax breaks in every single state where you could, if you want to become a teacher, you could almost go to any public teaching college, that particular college, not the private school, not the one you wanted and now you want to break, the actual school where they make teachers, different colleges, and go for free. North Carolina, all you got to do is teach for 3 years and your whole college debt is done. Now what happens? Most teachers quit on year 1 or year 2 because, they realized that wasn't what they wanted to do. And different reasons they quit. Same thing goes for if you work in low-income areas, if you're a correction officer, just check your state As I want to say always on this channel, CYA, consult your attorney, consult your accountant, consult your CPA, because they'll give you better information than I will for your state. Now, your state may say, if you're a police officer, if you're a teacher, a daycare worker in a low-income area, if you're, God, there's like 4 or 5, but it usually falls under Homes for Heroes program. You'll see it match up. They are willing to, as long as you haven't consolidated your loans with a private company, they're willing to kind of wipe the slate clean on your college debt, because you're serving low-income communities or you're serving dangerous areas and they want to pay that back. So there's opportunities in there to get your money back from college. But people don't want to do that, right? People don't want to do jobs they don't want to do. I'm trying to think of this survey. I wish I could pull it up. But it was basically they gave all these people who just left college opportunities to do what? Would you rather give up a kidney or serve in the military? A high percentage of people said they'd rather give up a kidney. Is that crazy or what? You can serve in the military in over 1,000 different jobs. You can be a dentist, a doctor, work in a hospital setting. You could do a bajillion different things. And to say you rather give up a kidney than serve in a job that you may just sit at a desk. Now, people don't like this, but I know several people who never went to Iraq. Never went to Iraq, never went to Kuwait. They went to Korea or they went to Germany, and they came back home and they got out. Now, people are like, that's crazy. They never served. No, they never went overseas. They never went into the battlefront. And so lots of opportunity there. So what I think is happening is we're reaching a part in our society. Like when people say America has the richest poor people, we do. We do. We have the richest poor people in all the world. Because if you're poor in America, unless you're homeless under a bridge, let me clarify that. Unless you're homeless under a bridge, if you're a woman who makes a mistake and has a baby out of wedlock and you have nowhere to live, they can give you Section 8 housing. They give you project housing. Is it good housing? No. But they'll give you that housing. If you don't have food put in your belly, they'll give you food stamps. If you don't have, I'm really going down the list here. If you want to go to school and you can't afford daycare for your kid, you can get that at the health department. If you can't afford birth control, you get that at the health department. If you can't afford healthcare, you can get that at the health department. This country has some of the most well-to-do poverty people we've ever seen. Now, there's a video or a meme, if I'm not mistaken, and it opened up a refrigerator of somebody who was on food stamps. And it was full to the brim of like waffles and tacos and processed food and crap, and the other refrigerator was barely had any food in it. It's like, this person worked 40 hours a week. This person's on welfare. Now, is that true? Not necessarily. But what you're learning there is you give people $500 to $1,000 and sometimes just $200 of food stamps. That does help them. That does help them focus, get back to work, do what they need to do. But not long term. Long term, it just teaches them to not work. Why work when, and I've heard people say this is the sad part. I've heard people say, why work when the daycare costs for my kids and all this stuff is going to add up, so I should just wait a few more years. And I was like, you've been to college. You've got your master's degree in HR. You can make $60,000, $70,000 a year at HEB here in Texas. But because you have 2 kids out of wedlock, you rather stay in this Section 8 apartment, because I was working for a company, Section 8 apartment, complaining about the government and not working. So some people are milking the system. Not everybody, but some. But that's the thing about poverty. Life isn't fair, but when you know better, you do better, right? So I'm gonna read some of these comments because I've been kind of going on. Malik, as soon as Erica gets in the house, she puts the red t-shirt on. The red t-shirt is like rah. Now, I just got these t-shirts in the mail. It's under Sporting Company. Love them. It's about like shooting, hunting, sporting lifestyle. But you guys don't, you don't want to hear me talk about shooting and hunting. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to fix this. Okay, so again, what is the solution of this video? Kind of figure out where you are. What is your debt? What is your freedom number? Do you need $4 grand a month to live? Then we need to figure out how we can get you an investment to get you there. Do you want to start a business? Then we need to figure out, do you have the capital to start a business? Well, a lot of people can start a business, but they can't keep it open 2-3 years because they run out of money. So do we need to get your credit cleaned up? Do we need to get you something else? What can we do to get you in the place you want to be in? So I'm opening up for questions. You guys, let me know any of your thoughts. on the blue collar millionaires, if credit helps or hurts people, school system, you name it. This is kind of a ranting Wednesday. So, Michelle, give someone a fish and they'll eat dinner that night. Teach someone to fish and you'll feed them for life. It's very true. It's very true. And I think lack of exposure does that to people. Because like when I saw the study they said about these kids, I was like, these kids are getting depressed. Instead of thinking, I'm in America, I can go do whatever I want. I can go start a company. I can go run a business. I can do all these things. But instead, they were depressed. Like that made me so absolutely sad because that just shows lack of vision, lack of opening the door up a little bit. Does that make sense? Like these kids, instead of going, you know, I can sell t-shirts too, or I can do something on Teespring, or I can do something somewhere else. Really depressed. Like that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So over here was that article I was trying to show you, but it says the myth of meritocracy hurts kids of color. I don't think it just hurts kids of color. I think it hurts poor kids, period. There are a lot of times when I was in college and there'd be there'd be like kind of poor white kids and they would be really angry in college conversations. And I couldn't understand or grasp my head around it. But I think what happened is this is the first time they went somewhere in college. It just happened to be college. And there were people of other races, Asians, blacks, whoever, who were kind of upper middle class, upper wealthy class. And a lot of that, you know, maybe they're from their town. It's only, you know, some poor white kids. They didn't understand what's going on, right? They're coming into a system and realizing, wow, there's other people doing better than me, or there's other people with other opportunities, and it's not fair. So I experienced some of this at college. I remember this guy just being so angry about black people. And I'd be like, dude, calm down. Like, my family's a cop family. Like, I don't hate police. Where are you getting that from? So it's just people being taught things that are ridiculous. Basically, a lot of these kids, and in the study, they had Latino, they had Black, they had Native American, and 7% non-white youth. So definitely go check it out. Go read it. I'm not going to read it to you. You guys are smart people. You do not want me reading things to you. That'll drive you crazy. I'm like, girl, I didn't want you to read things to me. But again, back again to the 79 alternative investments over there. Don't forget to check that site out too. But let me see what some of your comments are. Lala D, if you start a daycare in a low-income area in DFW, does student loan forgiveness apply? So Lala D, what I would do is I would go Google your local, it depends on what city or state you're in DFW, but I would basically go Google loan forgiveness for low-income jobs or low-income jobs. Because what happens is when you open up a daycare and you take state money, or like let's say you take, you know, state funds for a daycare, they'll come check your house out, or they'll come check your location space out to make sure it's safe and it has the quality, you know, it's a quality daycare essentially. But yeah, there's ways to check that out. Again, you can look up student loan forgiveness right now, depending on your major, depending on your city. There's a lot of wiggle room in those programs they're coming up with, which is interesting. Jackie, I mentor girls and I teach them to become entrepreneurs now instead of waiting till they're grown. Jackie, that's very necessary. That's very necessary, because what people don't realize is a lot of people only start, like that book I have, The Illusions of Entrepreneurship. That's where a lot of people start their business, because they're in between jobs. They don't want to work for anybody. And now they're in a crunch or a pinch and they want to do that. A lot of people call me saying they want to start businesses. And I go, well, do you have X amount of dollars put aside? Do you have, you know, $100,000 in business lines of credit set aside? Because you might need to sustain this business for 2 years before it really makes money. And people don't think about that. They go, what? That's crazy. Now, could you start a painting company like I did and go out, knock doors, go out, get leads from online sources and paint and have a decent living? Of course. Of course. But a lot of times with brick and mortar businesses, you're going to need a lot more money. Southern California, on this channel, I always tell people, you can't say your credit's good just off 710. It doesn't matter. You might have a thin file. You might only have a car and a credit card, and that To me, any banker, any mortgage person we've had on the show, they'll tell you that's a thin bow. Multiple hard inquiries, just depends on the inquiries. But okay, so I wasn't going to do this one all day. I just wanted to come on here and talk about, you know, when people talk about poverty and saying like, oh my God, these, you know, there's no way out. There is ways out, but a lot of it, you have to be focusing, you have to be investing, and you have to, you know, a lot of times, what's the fastest way somebody can get more money? A job raise, you know, a pay raise, or switch jobs. And these studies are starting to show people that stay in their company 5 years and people that switch companies every 2 or 3 years, the people that switch jobs, they made way more money than the people that stayed. Now, why? Because the person that's staying, if you like your job and you're feeling comfortable, you're not going to ask for a raise. If studies show people get comfortable and they don't want to ask their manager for a raise because maybe the manager gave them slack when they were missing days at work and they were slacking, and you know, so they're like, they feel a little guilty asking for money. Don't ever feel guilty for asking for money. You need to ask for the money every time the year comes up for the review. You need to ask for it, because if you were to switch jobs, you could ask the next company for $5,000 more income. And I'll just say, I know a young lady who her company gave her a $5,000 income boost, and she, you know, because she has direct deposit, she didn't even notice it. Like, she didn't even notice it. She didn't even use the money. She just realized at the end of the year that, oh wait, I got an extra $3,000, and then called the company, and the company's like, no, you're supposed to get an extra $5,000. You got to realize some people in corporate America, they're on autopilot. They just show up to work and they're not paying attention. So I did this show. I just want to make sure you guys looked at some of these sites. You know, it's super interesting. As the economy changes, you'll see a lot more poverty, and I think you'll see a lot more people retraining. If you guys didn't keep up with the thing with the coal workers in West Virginia, they offered them retraining, and many of them refused. So a lot of the guys can do solar power, they can do natural gas, they can do other things, but they refuse. So what does that tell you? That means people are stubborn. People don't want to change. So thank you guys for coming out today. Again, if you ever need anything credit repair related, the links are below. If you want to talk to me about your situation, which a lot of you give questions on here, I can't go into them that deep. Just go ahead and put your links in below. So click the links below. So everybody, this is Erica, Classy Climb Blog. I am outie, and I probably will do another show later today about some crony capitalism, but we'll yet to be determined. So everybody, you guys have